Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're going exploring software testing, but through a lens you might not expect test scenarios. You've probably heard of testing, finding bugs, all that. But trust me, this deep dive into the source material you provided is going to reveal just how strategic and, dare I say, fascinating the world of testing can be.
It really is. Most people think testing is, well, reactive, waiting for something to break and then fixing it.
Yeah.
But test scenarios flip that on its head.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's about being proactive.
So let's break down the foundation here. What exactly is a test scenario? The source we have defines it as any functionality that can be tested. That seems pretty broad.
It is, and that's intentional.
Okay.
It's about shifting your perspective from just the code itself to how a user experiences that code. Think about any app you use, every button click, every swipe, every form you fill out. Those are all potential test scenarios waiting to be explored.
So it's not just, does this button work? It's, what are all the different ways a user might try to use this button, and what should happen in each case?
Exactly. A good test scenario puts you in the user's shoes. You're not just looking for code errors. You're trying to anticipate all the ways a real person might interact with the software and ensuring a smooth and intuitive experience.
I'm already starting to see how this goes beyond just simple bug hunting. This is about understanding user behavior and making sure the software really meets their needs.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a common point of confusion. The difference between test scenarios and test cases. People mix these up all the time.
I'll admit, I'm one of those people, so help me out here. What's the distinction?
Think of it like this. A test scenario is the big picture, the overall goal you're trying to test. Like on an e-commerce site, you might have a test scenario called checking the login functionality.
Okay, that makes sense. So then what's a test case?
The test cases are the specific actions within that scenario. So under checking the login functionality, you might have test cases like, what happens if I enter the wrong password 3 times? Or what if I try to log in with an email that hasn't been registered? Or does the forgot password link work correctly?
So each test case drills down into a very specific aspect of that broader scenario, like a branching path of possibilities within that main goal.
You got it. And the source material gives a great example with an e-commerce product page. The scenario is check the product description page. But think of all the things a user could do there. Zoom in on images, read reviews, add to their wish list, try different colors or sizes. Each of those actions needs its own test case to ensure it works as intended.
Okay, so I'm starting to get the picture, but I'm also wondering, why not just test everything? Why bother with this structured approach of scenarios and cases?
Well, you could try that, but in the real world, time and resources are limited.
Right.
Thinking in terms of test scenarios brings some really important benefits to the table.
Like what? Convince me this isn't just extra paperwork.
First off, it helps ensure complete test coverage. By systematically thinking through different user behaviors and scenarios, testers can make sure they aren't missing any crucial functionality. It's like a roadmap to make sure you've explored all the important areas.
Okay, so it's a way to avoid those embarrassing moments where a feature breaks because nobody thought to test it in a certain way. What else?
Another huge benefit is stakeholder alignment. Test scenarios are a fantastic way to get everyone on the same page. Developers, business folks, project managers, even potential customers. Having those clearly defined scenarios helps ensure everyone agrees on what needs to be tested, before the software goes live.
So it's like a shared language that helps avoid miscommunication and ensures everyone's expectations are aligned. I can see how that would save a lot of headaches down the line. What was that third benefit you mentioned?
The third benefit is all about efficiency. You can't test absolutely everything. By focusing on likely user behaviors and creating targeted test scenarios, teams can prioritize their efforts and get the most out of their testing time. They're not wasting time on obscure edge cases that are unlikely to ever occur in real-world usage.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's about working smarter, not harder, prioritizing the testing efforts based on what really matters for the user experience. I like it. But I'm also curious, are there times when this whole test scenario approach wouldn't be the best fit?
That's a great question. And yes, there are definitely situations where test scenarios might not be the most efficient or effective approach.
Okay, I'm all ears. Tell me more about these exceptions.
For example, if you're dealing with a very complex application that's constantly changing, think about a rapidly evolving social media platform.
Uh-huh.
Creating detailed test scenarios for every little feature can quickly become overwhelming. The effort to keep those scenarios updated might outweigh the benefits.
Right, it'd be like trying to hit a moving target. The software is evolving so fast that your scenarios would be outdated before you even finish writing them. What other situations come to mind?
Test scenarios might also not be the best fit for teams using agile methodologies. Agile is all about fast iterations, responding to change quickly. So the upfront investment in detailed test scenarios might not align with that rapid pace of development.
So if you're doing smaller, more frequent releases, you need a testing approach that's equally nimble and adaptable.
Exactly. And finally, for small bug fixes or regression testing,
Okay.
where you're just making sure a small change hasn't broken anything else, detailed test scenarios are usually overkill. You'd already have those scenarios documented from previous testing cycles.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You need to choose the right testing tools and techniques for the specific project and development methodology. Okay, you've convinced me that test scenarios are a valuable tool in the software development arsenal, but now I'm really curious, how do you actually go about writing one? Where do you even begin?
Well, our source breaks it down into a 5-step process.
5 steps. Sounds manageable. Lay it on me. What's the first crucial step in crafting a great test scenario?
First and foremost, you need to thoroughly understand the requirements. Before you can test anything, you have to know exactly what the software is supposed to do.
So this is where you dive deep into all the documentation, user stories, functional specs, anything that outlines the goals and intended behavior of the software, more than just skimming the manual then.
It's about truly understanding the purpose and intended use of the software.
Okay.
The better you grasp the why behind the software, the better you can anticipate how a user might interact with it.
Okay. Solid foundation. What comes next?
Step 2 is where the real magic happens.
Hmm.
You need to shift your mindset and think like a user. Put yourself in their shoes and consider their goals, their motivations, and the different ways they might approach the software.
So this is where those mini stories come in. It's about envisioning real-world use cases and thinking beyond just the technical functionality.
Precisely. This step is all about empathy and understanding.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this gets interesting. What's step 3 in this test scenario journey?
Once you have a good grasp of both the requirements and the user's perspective, it's time to start listing out your scenarios. Brainstorm different ways users might interact with each feature, both the intended happy path and some less obvious or even untended actions.
So for our e-commerce example, you might have a scenario for adding an item to the cart, but also adding an item, then removing it, or adding multiple items from different categories, or even trying to add an item that's out of stock.
Exactly. The more scenarios you can envision, the more thorough your testing will be.
I can see how this could get pretty creative, almost like brainstorming story ideas for a movie. What about step 4? How do we keep all these scenarios organized and make sure nothing falls through the cracks?
That's where step 4 comes in. Creating a traceability matrix. It's a way to map each requirement to at least one test scenario, ensuring that every aspect of the software's functionality is covered by at least one test.
So it's like a checklist to ensure no requirement gets left behind in the testing process. It's like a recipe, making sure you have all the ingredients before you start baking.
That's a great analogy. And finally, step 5 is all about review and refinement.
The polishing phase. So what happens in this final step?
This is where you get feedback from others, developers, business analysts, other testers, even potential users, to make sure your scenarios are clear, comprehensive, and truly test what they're supposed to test.
So it's not a solo mission. You're collaborating to make sure the scenarios are as strong as they can be. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. This is fascinating stuff. We've covered a lot of ground already, but I'm eager to dive deeper into the practical side of things.
Me too. Let's explore some real-world examples and uncover those aha moments you were promised at the beginning.
Our source had some really practical tips for writing effective test scenarios. I especially like the one about keeping them focused.
Yes. Starting with single requirement scenarios is key for clarity, especially if you're new to this. You don't want to try to cram every possible action into one scenario. Keep them concise, targeted. It's much easier to manage and understand a scenario that focuses on one specific aspect of the software.
Right. It's like that old saying, one thing at a time. Focus on testing one specific functionality. Or user goal at a time. So instead of like a sprawling scenario called using the shopping cart, you'd break it down into smaller, more focused scenarios, like adding items to cart, removing items from cart, and editing cart quantities.
Exactly. And another great tip was about ensuring your scenarios are repeatable. Anyone should be able to pick up your scenario and follow it without needing extra explanation.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you're working on a large project with a whole team of testers. Consistency is key to efficient and reliable testing.
Absolutely. Clear, repeatable scenarios make the whole testing process smoother, more efficient. It eliminates ambiguity and ensures everyone is following the same steps, leading to more consistent and reliable results.
So far, we've talked a lot about e-commerce sites, but test scenarios apply to ANY software, right? Not just online shopping.
Absolutely. Think about banking apps, social media platforms, ride-sharing services, even the software in your car or smart home devices. It all needs to be tested thoroughly to ensure it works as expected and provides a positive user experience. Test scenarios are a universal tool in the software development world.
Wow, so these scenarios are everywhere behind the scenes, silently working to make sure things run smoothly in our increasingly digital lives.
They really are. And they're not just for big tech companies either. Even if you're a solo developer working on a small project, thinking in terms of test scenarios can help you catch problems early on, saving you time and headaches down the road. It's a valuable skill for anyone involved in building software, regardless of the project's size or complexity.
So it's not just about preventing crashes or bugs, it's about ensuring a quality experience for the user, whether it's a seamless online checkout process or a safe and reliable ride-sharing experience. It's about building trust in the software we use every day.
Exactly. And to your point about real-world applications, our source gives some great examples of test scenarios for a banking website. It really highlights how versatile this approach is and how it can be applied to a wide range of software applications.
I'm curious to hear about these banking scenarios. What kind of things did they test?
For instance, they had a scenario called check money transfer functionality. Within that scenario, you could have test cases for transferring money between your own accounts, transferring to a different person, scheduling a future transfer, exceeding your daily transfer limit, all the different ways a user might interact with the money transfer feature.
And each of those test cases would need to cover various aspects, like entering the correct amount, choosing the right recipient, confirming the transaction details, and of course, ensuring the whole process is secure and protected from unauthorized access.
Precisely. It's about testing both the functionality and the security of the feature. And then you'd have other scenarios for things like viewing your account statement, paying bills online, setting up account alerts, or even just the simple act of logging in and out of the system. Each of these scenarios represents a potential user interaction that needs to be thoroughly tested to ensure a smooth and secure banking experience.
It's amazing how much thought goes into making sure these systems work flawlessly. It makes you appreciate all the work that goes on behind the scenes to make our digital lives easier, more secure.
It really does. And it highlights the importance of good testing practices. Well-written test scenarios could be the difference between a seamless, positive user experience and a frustrating, error-prone one. They're a crucial part of building software that people trust and enjoy using.
I know I've definitely experienced my share of frustrating apps and websites where things didn't work as expected. Now I'm starting to see all the potential pitfalls that testers are working hard to prevent. It's like a whole new world opens up once you start thinking like a tester. You become more aware of the potential points of failure and the steps taken to ensure a smooth user journey.
It is like having a behind-the-scenes pass to the world of software development. You start to understand the thought process and the meticulous attention to detail that goes into building software that just works.
Thinking back to those 5 steps for writing a test scenario, do you have any advice for someone just starting out? What's the most important thing to remember when approaching this for the first time?
I'd say the most important thing is to really put yourself in the user's shoes. Don't just think about the technical aspects of the software. Try to understand how a real person would interact with it. What are their goals, their frustrations, the different paths they might take? The better you understand the user, the better you can anticipate their needs and create scenarios that accurately reflect real-world usage.
So empathy is key. It's not just about ticking boxes and following a script. It's about understanding the human element of software.
Exactly. And building on that, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're not sure about something, reach out to developers, business analysts, or other testers to get clarification. The more you understand the software and the requirements, the better your scenarios will be. Collaboration is crucial in this process.
It's all about teamwork and communication. Testing isn't a solo endeavor. It's about bringing together different perspectives and expertise to ensure a high-quality product. I'm already starting to look at my apps differently. I'm constantly thinking about the scenarios behind every button and feature, imagining all the different ways things could go right or wrong.
That's great. You're starting to think like a tester. And trust me, once you start seeing the world through that lens, you can't unsee it. It becomes a natural part of your interaction with technology.
It's like a superpower, being able to anticipate potential issues and understand the thought process behind the software's design.
It kind of is. You start to notice things that other people miss, and you can anticipate problems before they even happen. You become more informed and discerning user of technology.
So next time I encounter a glitch or a confusing design, I'll know that there's probably a whole team of testers out there working hard to make things better, using test scenarios to guide their efforts and ensure a smoother experience for everyone.
That's right. They are the unsung heroes of the software development world, working diligently behind the scenes to ensure the technology we rely on is reliable, user-friendly, and secure.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the basics of test scenarios to their importance in various software applications. We've even delved into the process of writing effective test scenarios, but I feel like there's still more to uncover. What else can you tell us about this fascinating world of software testing?
We've mainly focused on the what and the how of test scenarios, but there's also the why behind all of this. Why is testing so important in the first place? What's the bigger picture?
You mean beyond just finding bugs and preventing crashes? What's the deeper purpose of all this effort?
Exactly. It's not just about technical correctness. It's about ensuring quality, building trust, and ultimately creating software that people love to use. Software that makes their lives easier, more productive, and more enjoyable.
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the technical details, but we shouldn't forget the human element. At the end of the day, software is meant to be used by people, and we want that experience to be positive.
Exactly. Well-tested software is more reliable, more efficient, and ultimately more enjoyable to use. It can even have a real impact on people's lives, especially when it comes to things like healthcare, finance, or transportation.
It's a big responsibility. No wonder testers take their work so seriously.
They do. And they're constantly learning and adapting as technology evolves. New tools, new methodologies, new challenges. It's a field that never gets boring.
That's what I love about these deep dives. You never know what you're going to learn. I came into this thinking test scenarios were just about finding bugs, but it's so much more than that.
It really is. It's about understanding users, thinking systematically, and ensuring quality at every stage of the development process.
It's like being a detective, a storyteller, and a quality control expert all rolled into one.
I like that analogy. It captures the multifaceted nature of testing.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? Why should they care about test scenarios even if they're not software developers or testers themselves?
Well, even if you're not directly involved in building software, understanding the basics of testing can make you a more informed and discerning user of technology.
You mean like being able to spot potential problems before they happen, or understanding why certain apps are more user-friendly than others?
Exactly. Next time you're using an app or website, pay attention to how it's designed, how it responds to your actions, and whether it meets your expectations. If something feels off or clunky, you might be witnessing a test scenario that wasn't fully considered, or a user experience that wasn't properly tested.
That's fascinating. It's like having a behind-the-scenes look at how software is made and being able to appreciate the level of thought and effort that goes into creating a seamless user experience.
It is. And it can also help you be more forgiving when you do encounter those inevitable glitches or bugs. You'll understand that it's not always a sign of incompetence, but rather a reflection of the complexity of software development and the constant challenge of testing every possible scenario.
So it's about having realistic expectations and appreciating the hard work that goes into making the technology we rely on every day.
Absolutely. Software development is a human endeavor, and humans make mistakes. Testing is about minimizing those mistakes and creating software that is as robust, reliable, and user-friendly as possible.
This has been a truly eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the world of software testing and the crucial role it plays in our digital lives.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure exploring these concepts with you, and hopefully our listeners have come away with a better understanding of why testing matters and how it impacts their daily experiences with technology.
Absolutely. So next time you encounter a frustrating app or website, remember the unsung heroes, the testers who are working hard behind the scenes to make our digital lives a little smoother. And who knows, maybe you'll even start thinking like a tester yourself, analyzing user experiences and anticipating potential pitfalls.
That would be fantastic. The more people who understand and appreciate the importance of testing, the better the software we'll all have.
Well said. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.